Welcome, guys, to the second episode of the Billa Poddy. Obviously, I'm your host, Izzy Carter. Now, tonight we have a very, very special guest. He's one of the greatest rugby league players of Papua New Guinea, a captain, a pioneering GOAT for the sport and for the motherland, which is the only nation in the world that has rugby league as its main sport. I could go on and on about his accomplishments, which we'll obviously go through, but we have to welcome David Mead, aka Meady.
Easy. Thanks for having me on your podcast, mate. I'm excited to have a chat to you, and I really like that jersey in the background there. That's a great idea. You've given me a great idea for these dull curtains behind me. I usually record in this room. The curtains are a bit plain, so it's given me some ideas.
True. I got some bilum there next door. You can't really see it, but that's good.
Oh, that's
man.
awesome.
That's good. How's your off season been,
mate? It's been good. We played in that grand final in the Queensland Cup grand final a couple of weeks ago, and since then I've the break. I've had about 5 weeks off now, and in that 5 weeks I've been still doing my own training, going to the gym, doing a bit of running, spending a lot of time with family, enjoying the school drop-offs and pickups with the kids, and that's what I've been doing over the past 5 weeks, and I've really been enjoying it.
Yeah. That's true. So good to hear, because last season with the Broncos and stuff, the season, it was good to see rugby again, really.
Yeah, it was, mate. I in France last year, it was pretty tough with everything that was happening with COVID, and I was wondering if I'd have the opportunity to come back to the NRL and be able to play.
Yeah.
Because competition wasn't getting started until August. From May till August, a lot of uncertainty, and I thought this could be my last year of playing professional rugby league. I contacted NRL clubs and they weren't interested, and it came around to November. I was a bit stressed and a bit anxious about where I'd play, and then I was pretty grateful that Broncos were able to give me an opportunity to come back and be back playing in the NRL. So this year's certainly been very enjoyable. It's had its challenges, but I think for us living in Brisbane, in Queensland, the challenges haven't been as difficult as the teams coming up from Sydney, Melbourne, or New Zealand. So it's been a great year for rugby league in Australia, like having the fans back, but also a very challenging one. And I think the NRL did a pretty good job for us players and the fans to make the game go ahead.
100%. It was good to see you back in, just in the league. But for the people that don't know, obviously you've got a lot of Papua New Guineans that follow you and whatnot. But the people that don't know, you were born in Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. But obviously your village and your province and your family, whereabouts was that?
So from Central Province, obviously Port Moresby there. I grew up in a village called Tubusera Village. I went to primary school there from grade 1 to 5. And my first 12 years in the village there, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. And my grandparents were subsistence farmers. And that farm was about 8-10 kilometers out of the village. So we try and walk, and then, what it's like in PNG, you try and catch a ride on the back of someone going from the village to town. And that was most of the time we were lucky enough to jump on the back of a ute. They drop us off on the side of the road, and then we'd walk inland a couple of 100 meters in bush. And I spent a lot of time with my and seeing how hard they worked, seeing all the weeding and all the planting of bananas, yams, taros, tapioca, those types of vegetables. That was all year round, and I got to spend a lot of time and saw how hard they worked. And I think that gave me a pretty good foundation of what I needed to do to feed the family. It wasn't easy. It was my grandmother carrying, putting a bill on her head and walking kilometers with food on her head, and that image sticks whenever I go to train and play games with PNG. I know the games and training can get tough sometimes, but I think back to my grandmother doing that, and the training becomes a whole lot easier.
True. Sorry, media.
No, I know. I was just saying the typical I grew up the typical village lifestyle. Went to school with no shoes on. Gathered the boys for a game of footy after school. We didn't have a footy all the time, but we put a little bit of water in an empty Coke bottle or empty cordial bottle, and we kicked that around as a footy and climbing coconut, doing all that sort of stuff. So I've got great memories growing up in the village there.
True. And you got any other fond memories, growing up back home?
Yeah, I've got heaps. There's a lot, especially after school, when school was finished. A lot of the times we were hungry, and there's a lot of mango trees around, and those mango trees don't necessarily belong to your family. And normally there's like a rope or a vine tied around them to mark them, to say that they're marked. And there was always a story behind, if you climb that tree or if you do that, something will happen to you. It was a way of, like, there was a spell cast. It was a way to deter our kids from climbing them, but that didn't stop us from climbing and eating them.
That's crazy. But then eventually you went to New South Wales when you were a teenager. Went to Lismore Brothers. Eventually got picked up with the Titans. How was that experience? Between like the school grade and then making it to the league.
Right, so I moved here when I was 12 years old, and when I first moved here, I was able to join an organised sport in cricket. We had to wear the real uniform. We had the pads, gloves, the bats. Just having the equipment, the gear, that was a completely new world to me, because I was only used to, a tennis ball and a timber, playing cricket in the village. But to be able to come to Australia and experience that as a 13-year-old or 12-year-old was surreal to me. I was like, man, this is what adults see. This is what you watch on TV.
Yeah.
And when the cricket season finished, I was able to wear proper footy boots, and that was foreign to me as well. So I started under 13s with the rugby union team, Lismore Rugby Club. I played that for 6 years, playing with Morris Brothers Rams in Lismore.
Yeah.
Under 18s, and it was my first year of league that the Titans came into the competition, and they were doing their scouting around Lismore, around northern New South Wales, and I was lucky enough to be picked up by John Cartwright at the time. He was watching one of the games, and it kind of kicked off from there. So I was very lucky in that sense that the Titans came into the competition, but in saying that, I also did love my extra training outside of, normal club training, which I think certainly gave me a bit of luck. The
he started with Union though too.
Yeah, mate. I played Union because at the time I called them my cousins, but they're my two brothers now, and they were both playing for Lismore City in those on a Saturday lunchtime, and I really enjoyed watching that game when they were playing, and I wanted to play, and I joined the under 13s team, and I was 12 at the time. So when you're 12 years old and you're playing against 13-year-olds, it's very tough, and we got most games, but it was fun regardless
too. And once you joined the Titans, you spent most of your NRL career with them. Was there any testing times during that period making the jump?
Yeah, mate, there was a fair few, especially because in my first 2 years we got a fair bit of success. We had a lot of older there who didn't tolerate low standards. We had Scotty Prince, Luke Bailey, Preston Campbell, Matty Rogers, plenty of big names there who drove high standards, and for us young guys, we had to make sure we trained at that level. And when they started to move on, the times started to get really, really tough for the club. We didn't make the 8 from 2011 to 2016. So in a lot of testing times, because there's obvious you're losing games, there's pressure on the team, and when you're part of a team and you're working hard all preseason, you want to perform all year, and that wasn't the case for the Titans at my time there. So there was certainly a lot of testing times there.
True. But one of the best times I did see was your famous try. And you picked it up pretty much when he was out with one hand leading on the wing, and you finished off pretty crazy.
Yeah, mate. At the time, I just stuck my hand out, and it just stuck somehow. I don't know. Luck.
Yeah.
But I just thought, oh, cool, I scored the try. And then when I looked at the replay, the camera angle made it look a lot better than what it felt. So I was like, and then everyone was tagging me on Facebook and, talking about it the next couple of days. And, what it felt like to score the try didn't feel as good as what it looks like on TV, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you played it pretty cool.
Yeah, I got to make it look like it happens all the time. Yeah.
But when that time when you joined the Titans, it was 08, 09. You were included in the World Cup squad for the Kummels. You made your debut, and the World Cup was in Australia too. Though again, snowballed for kind of kickstarting your career. That would have been obviously an honour.
Mate, I played under 20s that year, and then I didn't have a great year in under 20s. I was injured a lot throughout the year, and I think I might have played only 8 games. And when he gave me an opportunity to go on trial up there, it was internationals versus residents to trial to make the side. And we had a trial game, and I played pretty well. And then I made the squad. And when I made the squad, the teams we were going to play against were Australia, New Zealand, and England.
Yeah.
I was pretty nervous, just thinking, wow, I haven't even played OL yet.
Yeah.
I've barely played the Cup. And to go and play against these, fully grown men who have experienced a lot of games at the top level was, I was really nervous. But I had a lot of guys like Stanley Gannett, Neville Costigan, Paul Aiton. These guys just spoke to me as if like I'm up for it.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy, but they gave me belief and confidence that I'd be able to go out there and mix it with those big guys. And I think getting those 3 games in certainly helped my belief and confidence that I could go into a preseason with the Gold Coast Titans and be able to play NRL that year.
Yeah.
So I have gratitude to Adrian Lamb, especially for giving me an opportunity to play for the Kummels, because I think if I don't get that opportunity, I don't know if my chances of playing NRL are that great from that moment onwards.
From that moment, yeah.
So I think of that moment as a career-defining moment.
That's incredible. And you've obviously been a part of a couple more World Cup campaigns since then. If looking back, what would you kind of tell yourself now, like then?
I feel like at that age, I was pretty switched on with how I prepared.
Yeah.
I ate well. I did my stretching, my hydration. Looking back now, the only thing I'd probably tell myself is enjoy it as much as you can, because it's going to go quick. I had older guys, I remember Ashley Harrison telling me when I first started playing first grade, he said, mate, enjoy these years, because, you blink of an eye, time goes past, and it certainly feels like it has. I remember those moments just like yesterday, and I'd say that exact same thing to my youngest.
True. You can't beat Father Time, man.
Mate, it's you just think back, even like being in France last year.
Yeah.
To think we landed in Australia nearly a year ago, mate, it feels like yesterday that we landed in Australia doing 2-week quarantine. But no, mate, time just flies. Hey, especially with the older you get, every day just seems to pass by really quickly.
Yeah. And speaking about you going to France with the Catalans Dragons, how's that experience? Because you haven't played in France before, and obviously the league's a little bit different to the NRL. How was the whole experience there?
mate, the experience was incredible, especially in France. There's obviously the language barrier there, which was a huge challenge for the family and I.
Yeah, yeah.
But we embraced it. Our son went to we lived in a French village, and our son went to a school that not many people could speak English. It was only the teachers that could understand it a little bit.
Wow.
And we immersed ourselves in that. And I tried to learn as much as I could. And that certainly helped. But, to be able to go and play in the English Super League was just an incredible experience, because I wanted to always tick that box. And former players have always told me, when you get a chance, make sure you go and play in Europe, because in your holidays, you can go and see other parts of it too. And the competition's certainly strong. You get hit as hard, you get tackled as hard. Maybe I was talking to Zeb Teo on the podcast a few days ago. Now, he comes out next week, but I asked him the difference between Super League and NRL. He said, mate, you get physically it's exactly the same, but it's pace is the only slight difference.
Right.
When I was there thinking, no, it's not going to be as hard as NRL, but it certainly is just as hard. Yeah.
And what was the Challenge Cup that you guys won? I haven't seen a tournament like that where they integrate like amateur and semi-pro leagues. It's a bit like the FA Cup with the soccer.
Yeah, I never knew about the Challenge Cup until, I had seen a few grand finals before going over there. I never really knew history. But it's not until I got there that I understood it was the oldest trophy in rugby league history.
Wow, really?
And opportunities for all these teams in the country to compete and go for it. It was last year that Halifax made it to the semi-final, which is like, say, Burleigh Bears or Tweed Heads.
Oh, no way.
Playing in the semi-final to go there. Halifax made it. So it's a good opportunity for these clubs to, try and push themselves.
Yeah,
it'd be cool, like Morris Brothers Rams from Lismore having a good go at it. It's certainly a great concept. I love it, And
that's crazy.
To be able to experience it with my teammates, it's certainly a great week.
And your favorite like countries or cities that you visited with the family, like when you were there?
Mate, we loved Italy. Italy just had the food, their pizzas. I love them probably a bit too much. Their pastas are a lot different to the pasta we eat over here. You can just taste it as soon as you bite the pasta. You're like, yeah, this is what real pasta tastes
proper,
like. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a huge, I'm not a pasta connoisseur or anything, but you could tell the difference between a real pasta and a packet pasta. But Italy was a great spot. I forgot the name of it. But we lived on the border of Spain as well, and Costa Brava. We enjoyed visiting there. That was only an hour and a half trip from us. Wow. But just experience Europe, different parts of Europe, just an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's so good to hear, man. And then the Broncos came knocking on the door again.
Yeah, I actually rang a few clubs in May when the competition was in doubt in Super League last year.
Yeah.
And I listed all 16 NRL teams on my journal. I was writing down names, trying to get contacts for them.
Yeah.
And then Broncos said, we don't have a spot now, but ring us in later in November or December. We might have a spot for you. So I rang the other. Yeah, opportunity wasn't really there. A lot of other guys were in the same boat as me who were, needed those opportunities as well. So I was just lucky in November that, my manager was able to get something, and he spoke to Kevy, and Kevy wanted to bring some older players back in the squad and to help the younger guys. So
yeah,
it was just a good fit for myself because my family's in Brisbane as well. So, and we really missed over those 3 years. We wanted to live next to them, and it was just a perfect fit. And I'm certainly grateful for that opportunity to be back here in Brisbane.
100%. And you obviously becoming playing with the Broncos this up and coming season as well.
Yeah, mate, I'm excited for it. It's been a big learning experience, not just for myself, but a lot of the guys in the team. A lot of the younger guys got the debut, which is always exciting to see, and I think they'll certainly be for it. We've got Selwyn Cobbo, TC Rabati, Xavier Wilson, Keenan. Got a few games in there, and these guys are going to work this year. I'm still there. I've still got to have a good preseason and make sure that I train hard so I can try and secure a spot there too. Because these young guys they're just getting better and better every year.
True. And what would you say, like some of the hardest mental obstacles you've had to overcome that actually brought out the best in you throughout your illustrious career?
Yeah, some of them. You see, I asked this question to all my podcast guests, but
now I'm asking you,
which is good. I need to think about it. I think injuries is certainly a big one. I've been fortunate that I haven't had any big ones. In 2010, I did a Lisfranc, which was a 6-month injury, and I was still young. I thought the world was coming to an end when I got injured, and the doctor told me it's 6 months. You're out for the rest of the year.
Sure.
At that moment, still young, 21 years old, and I just thought, wow, I can't believe the year's gone like that. And looking back now, that time's gone quick. If anything happened now, I'd approach it differently. I'd wake up the next, make sure I do everything that I can control. Like, my ice bath, my recovery, physio, all that stuff. I'd just be straight onto it. Wouldn't even think about how long the injury is going to be.
Yeah.
And that's always a big one, the injuries, how to handle them. And, moving to France, my wife certainly missed being back in Australia and having that language barrier, and not many people understanding it. That was a challenge we had to try and come as a family, because when we were there the first 3 months, we got homesick. And we were just missing. And then we just sat down and said, you know what, these 3 years are going to pass by really quick, and before we know it, we'll be back in Australia. And that's kind of how we dealt with it. And if that helped us enjoy our time there. But I wouldn't say it's mainly been around like situations off the field more so than on the field that are challenging, that you need to try and overcome.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Meady.
Good.
We'll move on quickly to some of the biggest inspirations that have sort of motivated your career throughout, like PNG players or not. What are some of the names that come to mind?
Marcus Bai is the first one. I remember, mate, he is. I remember after the New Zealand game in 2008, I saw him after the game, and he just said, mate, I love the way you play. You've got a big future ahead of you. Make sure you just, you train hard, you prepare well, and you look after yourself as long as you can, because, it'll go quick. And since I had that conversation with him, I've caught up with him nearly every year. And, he'll watch the games and just say, mate, I think this is what we did at Melbourne. I think maybe you can do some of this stuff. It'll help your game. And I've tried to implement that into my game. So he's always been good like that for me, just that mentor, someone to go and talk to when things are getting a bit tough. Scotty Prince, he's someone who's always been there. He has never said anything. He's always been tough on me, hard on me.
Yeah.
At training, when I'm not talking or when I'm not communicating, he's just looking back at me, Meady, effing talk. Like, he's saying that because at the time I was like, man, this guy's just being mean, but
it's just
that advice, mate, that advice to me has been valuable, because those moments made me get out of my comfort zone to talk as loud as I could on the training field.
Yeah.
And then now it's just a natural thing for me to go out and do that on the training. And that's, communication is a big part of rugby league. And Scotty Prince, someone who always just yelled at me constantly at training until it was ingrained in me. And then, he stopped doing it. He didn't need to do it anymore. So a lot of gratitude for Scotty as well.
That's awesome. And, so some of the toughest players that you played with and against.
Played with, endless. The toughest players. The first two that would come to mind are Preston Campbell and Nathan Friend. For
Good
obvious
true.
reasons. Yeah, they're not the biggest guys, but they'll take on anyone. Anyone running at them or them running at anyone. I always like the smaller guys and how tough they play, how they play above their weight.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
typical, and some fullbacks, but I'd say they're probably two that come to mind straight away, even though there's endless counts of them.
yeah, yeah.
Toughest players I've played against. Also, very similar. I remember running into Petro once, and I felt like my body. Yeah, I ran. Then I was like, oh, man, I feel jelly. And Isaac Luke once as well in the 2008 World Cup. Yeah, he got me a beauty, and I still feel like I can feel those hits right now.
Yeah.
If I
Still shaking the bone somewhere there.
mate, if I close my eyes and try to remember the moment, I would still feel the pain.
And the Hunters, doing pretty well. It's good that they came to Australia and still participated in the season.
Yeah, it would have been a really tough year for them, especially because it was like all of a sudden kind of thing.
Yeah.
And for a lot of those guys, they've got kids, partners that they had to leave behind. Now that's a challenge in itself that you got to try and manage and overcome. And then a lot of them aren't used to the lifestyle here in Australia. So for them trying to learn how to live in that type of environment away from home, that would have been a very challenging year for them as well. So I think this year they'll be a lot better off for it. I think they would have learned a lot. They'll go back home, breathe fresh, and come back. And I think they'll have a much better year this year. Next year. Sorry.
And exactly. And they've got under the guidance of Matty Church, that's going to help as well. Yeah,
I've spoken to Matty a few times now. He's a very nice guy. He wants the boys to do well, and he really cares for them. And he's someone who's doing a lot of homework, and he loves the PNG culture. And he's excited to go back to PNG to get a good preseason in with the boys over there and help them come over to Australia to make sure that they have a much better year.
Yeah. And leading into next season, Meady, what have you got? Some certain goals and aspirations that you want to tick off that endless box.
Yeah, mate. I'd love to, obviously play a lot more first grade, play consistently throughout the year, and they're my first two goals in terms of rugby league.
Yeah,
and obviously got a podcast on the side that I want to learn as much as I can.
Yeah,
I think these are early days for me, so and I'm enjoying listening to people's stories and finding out about how I can use their stories to inspire others. So they're my two main goals that I'm looking at for 2022.
That's awesome, matey. And obviously, and for the rest of the people that don't know, David Mead has his own podcast, David Mead Podcast. So make sure you give that a like and a follow and a share. But Meady, again, thanks for your time. We'll wrap it up soon. If you ever come to Melbourne, I'll be there. We'll be there to cheer you on and have another meet and greet, because the last time I actually met you was in the World Cup 2017.
Yeah, but this was before the game or after the game?
This is after the game. After you had that head on.
Maybe I went. Yeah.
Yeah. You were a bit dazed at that point, but
yeah, mate, it was a good time in Melbourne, but I wish I'd played more. But that's the way rugby league goes. But no, thanks for having me on the podcast. Thanks for reaching out. This is something I really enjoy doing, and I hope that you stick it out with the podcast, because I feel like it's very rewarding for me. And as more and more, you figure it out for yourself as well.
100%. It's good to hear other people's stories, and obviously other people hear it. You can converse and talk about genuine things through life and people's careers and their mental aspects, and how their outview of the world is. And that's something that I'm promoting right now, and I'm very, again, honored and blessed that you've taken the time out of your day to come and just chill out for half an hour, 40 minutes, how long we've been doing this for, and hopefully we'll get you again on, Meady.
Mate, I'll be glad to jump on anytime, Izzy. Thanks for having me. And also, they say you learn a few things here and there. I've
Yeah.
certainly learned. I need to put something in the. So thanks for that great idea.
No worries, Mead. We'll be in touch, and obviously I'll share the link when I upload.
Thanks, Izzy. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Mead. Take care. Good night.
You too. Good night.